And now, as promised, we have an interview with writer, teacher, Mj Cogburn.
This interview has a spoiler level of mirror image.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today, my guest is Mj Cogburn. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Albie?
I'm doing really good. It's a pleasure to talk to you. You are a writer, and you write a lot of Quantum Leap stories.
That would be an understatement. Yes, I do. I love writing Quantum Leap, and it's kind of been my hobby for, since 1992-ish, I think.
Pretty much right in the heyday of Quantum Leap when it was originally airing.
Oh, yeah. I fell in love with the show. I was over at a friend of mine's house spending the night, and next thing I know, they're like, hey, you want to watch this show called Quantum Leap? It's like, sure, I've never seen it before. And I fell in love with it in mid-season. I think it was season 1, late in season 1. So I didn't even understand how he was doing it or who this Al guy was at first. I was just like, oh, I like this show. When does it come on?
What specifically about Quantum Leap made you fall in love with it?
Well, it was the idea of being able to go back in time and meeting the people, being able to interact with them. The whole concept of writing that right, putting things right that once went wrong, that was the love of it. I mean, what a show for Scott Bakula. He had to have lucked into that.
Could you tell us a little bit about the stories you've written and how they take place in the Quantum Leap universe and a little bit more about them in case people haven't found your work and are looking for it?
It all started when there was a website that was talking about virtual seasons. And I was like, I wonder if I could do Quantum Leap. Next thing I know, one of the guys there said, hey, let me get you in touch with another Quantum Leap writer and maybe y'all can work together. I was like, sure, why not? So AJ Burfield and I got together. She lives in California. I live in Texas. It was done via text mails and ICQ, if anybody remembers that one. And next thing I know, we got the story written, and it just went from there. The story that we wrote started as soon as, how the show ended. Sam never got home. And we just picked up from there. We had the ending written as a prologue, the whole Sam talking to Al, the bartender, and going forward from there. And he leaped into a set of twins. Had never been done before because he's always left into one person. And we kind of had it to where there was a good side and a bad side, the good seed and the bad seed, and how he figured out what he needed to do to leap. And, of course, with all the faux pas from Siggy, it fixes itself out in the end, but I'm not going to ruin it by telling you the whole plot. But from then, it just kind of matriculated. She would write an episode and I would write an episode. And we decided to put it up on our website and through this one particular virtual seasons thing. And that's when I found Brian Greene. And he is another big fan of Quantum Leap, and he has his website, and I asked him if he wouldn't mind hosting the virtual seasons. And he said, sure, why not? Next thing I know, I'm putting them on his website, and up until this point where we are, we started on season 6, and I think we're up to season 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's between, the first year was like, 18 episodes, because we were like, I was running out of things to write about. She was running out of things to write about, and we would invite people in to write a story. And the next thing we knew, we had a whole bunch of writers, and we got to the point where we were putting out 32 episodes a year, following the canon. If it already had been written, you couldn't go back and change it. Like if I had him leap into a teacher, which I had him do that before, he couldn't write it to where he couldn't be that teacher. So we had to make sure that everything kind of fell into canon. We actually had frequent answered questions on the website that spurred all the way back, not only the series itself, but to certain episodes so that people would know this is what happened in this episode and this is what happened in this episode so that, people wouldn't get all confused.
Brian is a great guy. He helps us out behind the scenes. I love his website, too. That's a website I used to go to all the time for my Quantum Leap needs. That's Al's place, right?
Mm-hmm. QuantumLeapAlsPlace.com. Yeah.
So if you haven't checked it out, it's a great place to go for some Quantum Leap information. What are some of your favorite stories that you have written? I mean, without spoiling them for people, I'm very interested in this. This sounds very interesting to me because we only have those 5 seasons of Quantum Leap and a few novels and a few comic books.
Well, I've written so many. There are a couple of favorite ones that I've written. The very first one that I kind of based on reality to some certain extent was one called Queen of the Night. And it's not what you think. He goes from, of course, with Quantum Leap, he goes from this to that to another. From a radio disc jockey to a priest to a boxer to a chimpanzee, and now into a bodysuit, a mascot, a hippo. I was actually working at Hutto Hippo, the home of the hippos here in Texas, and I was a teacher, math at the time, and the cheerleading squad wanted a teacher to get into the mascot uniform. And they were like, "Hey, Miss Cogburn, would you like to be the hippo this week?" And I'm like, "Huh?" So they got me into the hippo outfit, and next thing I know, I'm in front of the student body in this outfit. I used that experience that I had and put it into the story. So, I mean, it's not true, real life stuff that happened to me, but idea that's there behind it is what I had fun with.
Well, they say write what you know, right?
Yeah, you always write what you know. If you don't write what you know, it will not come out sounding right, period, in this statement. The other one that I really enjoyed writing, I mean, it's hard to just pick one or two. Another one was one called One Voice Was Heard, and it's about how Sam leaps in to save the future of a 5-year-old girl. And with a little help, of course, from Al, he's able to save her life in the future, but are they really done with helping her? And I tend to find a song title that I like and try to base something off of that, just from the title of the song. And I think that was a song title, One Voice Was Heard. So it's all about what motivates you to write, if it's a TV show or the stuff that happens to you in real life, which, boy, there are some things that I could write.
Do you get a lot of feedback from your writing? Do you get positive feedback?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The way the website is set up, you can go in, read it online, or you could print it out. Either way, it's up to you. And if you decide to read it online, when you scroll down to the very bottom and you've already read the whole thing, there's a little link at the bottom that says you can email me or you can rate this episode. And what the link for the rate this episode does is it sends it back to the QuantumLeapAlsPlace.com message board, where it allows you to put in your comments about how that one particular episode affected you, if you didn't like it, or if you found a little mistake in there and you wanted us to fix it, whatever the case may be, you could write what you wanted to say. And yeah, getting a negative comment hurts a little, but I'd rather have some kind of comment than not a comment at all. I mean, criticism, as long as it's constructive, is good. If you're just going to criticize just to criticize, I can't stop you, but I'd rather give more constructive criticism anyway. So, there's one thing that I didn't tell you about the stories.
All right.
I forgot about this. We have the prologue, which is, of course, for the very first story that we did. We had the prologue being the ending from season 5. where Sam and the bartender are talking. And then he leaps. And then he lands wherever we have him land, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the very end of every story, there's an epilogue. And the epilogue is the beginning of the next story. So that in the show, Sam would always weep in and hear his, oh boy, or whatever was going on, however he said it, his little oh boy comment. That's what we did for this as well. You know, it was just so that you would come back the next week going, oh, I want to see what happens now.
You mentioned that you and the other writer took turns doing that. Now, did you talk about what the next story was going to be, or was it kind of like a challenge to the next person where you left the last episode off?
Oh, well, see, that's the thing. If whoever story came next, her beginning would be my ending.
Ah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just was wondering who came up with the next story.
At first, it was a lot of going back and forth of how we were going to end the stories. Were we just going to have it end with him going, oh boy, and then figuring out what's going to happen next? Or were we going to actually go in and like giving the readers something else to kind of get that, come back and see what's going to happen next week type thing that they always do on Quantum Leap.
That's one of my favorite parts, I think, of Quantum Leap, besides, of course, the characters and the stories and how awesome it is that little tease that it continues and this is the situation. So that's awesome that you included that in the stories.
Oh, thank you. And we had fun when we did this. And when AJ couldn't write anymore, by that time I had Elise Krayek and so many other awesome writers with us. There were so many, it was hard to keep track. And what was really neat about the whole thing is that, you know, somebody would send a story in and I'd read it and go, oh my God, I can't believe they went there with Sam. You know, I have to make sure that this one gets in there. And then, of course, we could get so many stories behind, or I'd get so many stories behind, I had to figure out, okay, which one's going to go next? Because we had so many people, like Elise, for example, she would write a 3-part story. And so you'd have a part 1, part 2, part 3. Well, you couldn't put them out of order because they had to go in order. So you'd have almost a month of stories written right there waiting for you. And then you're like, okay, what's going to come after hers? Well, got to read ahead. And it got to the point where I was putting so much work into the stories and the website and everything else that I had to leave my family alone. And that was something that I wasn't going to do. I mean, Quantum Leap is a big family-oriented show, and I wasn't going to let my family get left behind because of something that was just a hobby of mine. And I know that I haven't done a lot of writing in the past couple years, for sure. But when you have 2 young boys who are now 18 that are going into the Navy, issues with back pain, still having to work, other family issues that have to have my attention, and then maybe I can get back to it. But for right now, I'm going to have to still stay with my head down.
Oh, yeah, well, absolutely. Family always comes first.
Most definitely.
When I first heard of you was as the writer of Quantum Retribution. How did the writing of the virtual episodes turn into an audio drama about Quantum Leap?
Well, it all kind of started when Aurora McPherson wanted to do Quantum Leap. I think it was called an alternate universe, where Sam was supposed to go out and do something kind of weird. And I was asking her about what she was doing and how she was doing it. And next thing I know, she sent me a program and I started putting sound effects together and doing Quantum Leap audio, which you can find in Al's Place as well. But it started out with just doing little stuff with her, and it grew from there. And I never knew that this little bitty thing, this writing as a hobby, would lead me to find out what I'm really capable of doing with audio. Being able to find people to play a part and play them so well, one, and being able to make it sound like that you're in this other realm and having fun at it, it's just kind of enthralling and exhilarating. It's like I'm I'm not Frankenstein, but I'm the doctor making the Frankenstein, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So I don't know if I really tied QR in with that, but I kind of did, I guess.
So you not only wrote the show, you actually did a lot of the audio production for it.
Yes, because I wanted it to sound a certain way, and I didn't want anybody else to do it.
I know what that's like. Just a geeky technical question, because that's what I do as my passion is audio. What programs did you use, and how did you go about doing it?
I use Adobe Audition, and since it's a multi-track program, you can slide things in and out and figure out how you want it to sound. That just came from sitting down and playing with it. And so I had started off just playing, and next thing I know, I got in with Darker Projects. And after Darker Projects, Chris Snyder at Darker Projects got me involved with Colonial Radio Theater on the Air with Jerry Robbins. And I'm just like enthralled with doing this stuff because now I'm earning some money on the side doing something that I love to do.
Very nice. Yes, great job. I mean, the audio quality and the production quality of Quantum Retribution is amazing. And that was your first time doing it?
Well, no. The first time, if you want to listen to something that was kind of like before QR, it's over at Al's place, it's the Quantum Leap radio files.
What's that about?
It's where you go to listen to like little bitty stories that people have written, and I mean itty bitty stories. Like there's one called the Calavici Journals, Remembering Miracles of Love, the Calavici Fight. The one that I wrote was called The Impossible Dream, and they were released back in 2003 or 2004, and that was some of the very first stuff that I started to mix. Or produce, rather, because, I just went back and was playing around. Next thing I know, I was like, ooh, listen to what I got. It was like a little kid showing their parents their first color book, It was just something that I was like, oh, look what I can do. And next thing I knew, Elise and I started writing Quantum Retribution, and we're still writing stuff. And who knows when this is all going to be done. We might be little old ladies at 99 still writing. Who knows?
Without spoiling Quantum Retribution too much, could you tell our listeners a little bit about the story?
Well, to every coin, there is an opposite side of every coin. On one side, you have Al and Sam, the good guys. And on the back side, you have Zoe, Aaliyah, and Loftus. And, of course, they are the evil leapers. Well, you can't just have evil leapers and not have any kind of backstory on them. Superman and Lex Luthor, you know how Lex Luthor got there because of their whole story. And you learn about it as the movie goes on. But they never truly told us everything about Zoe or Aaliyah or Loftus. How'd they come about? They just kind of showed up one day and screwed up Sam's idea. And they said, we're always going to come back and change the things that you just changed. Yeah, okay. How'd they even know about it? So Elise and I figured out, well, let's go deeper into that side of the coin. Let's figure out how we think it happened. So on this small little island out in the Pacific somewhere, there is Dr. Nathaniel Losserman. And he has come up with his own program. And he uses his own people who if they don't do what he wants them to do, he tortures them in his project. So everything that deals with Lossus and his clan or kin, however you want to put it, is all on this island. And some of these people that live in this particular facility, some of them are there by their choice. Some of them were born there. They don't know anything different. So this group of people, they all have different jobs to perform. Some are nurses and doctors. Some are leapers. Some are observers. And they're going about their life doing what Loftus wants them to do. And we just created this whole little system, and people seem to like it. There was one thing that Elise read somewhere, and She still laughs about it to this day. The comment was, "Quantum Retribution is my crack. Can I have more, please?" And how we write, she would take a character and, like, if we have 2 people in the room, 2 or 3 people in the room, next thing I know, I might be writing for one particular person, and she's writing for one particular person as well. And then we flip back and forth between the third person. And we're going back and forth so much between what this person said. It just sounds just like what Sam would say, or Al with his wacky saying. We'd have this one character who would always say certain things, and another character who would say other things. And I guess it just flows. I don't know. I'm just a writer. I just have fun. And, you know, if you like that kind of thing, come on over and join in.
For people who do not know, that's available at darkerprojects.com. Darker Projects also available on iTunes. I highly recommend it. I think the production quality is amazing. The writing's really good. Also, the voice casting was done very well. Even though these are different actors playing them, you still can hear the original character in that.
Oh, yes, yes. There are times when, like this one character, the person, you know, just like in a TV series, that person got sick, couldn't do it, or passed away, and they get another person to play that part. We have to do the same thing. You know, people step down, they don't want to do it anymore, or something along those lines, you know. It just happens. And we have a perfect Sam Beckett. What I was going to try to do was to see if he would continue to do Sam. And just recently, I believe he's had something done with his throat. And I'm not sure if he can do the part. So he sounds so much like him. If you want to hear what he sounds like, he was actually on Quantum Dimensional Leap into the Night. And that's on the Quantum Leap Radio Files page over at Al's Place. You can get a sample of what he sounded like. Very similar to Sam Beckett, obviously. I know I haven't put out as much Quantum Retribution lately in the last couple of years either because of family and issues going on, but I'm trying to get that back on since I know people are kind of going, well, what happened?
Real life does get in the way sometimes. It really does.
You know, it kind of gets kind of crazy at times. And, of course, there still is the teaching that is my true calling.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Being a teacher and loving Quantum Leap so much, does Quantum Leap influence you in any way with your teaching?
Yes, it does. It's funny that you brought that up. What I have done in the past is that whenever we have a day, you know it's going to be like a half of a day, and the kids are antsy because they get to leave, and you're just like, okay, this is what we're going to do today. Since I am an English teacher, English applies with just about everything story-wise, and if you can tie in a TV show to go over the plot line, that helps. Especially, I was using it to go over plot and everything with special education students. So we would put in one of the episodes, and I would tell them, okay, now, you got to understand, he is not really that person, but he's like he has on a coat of that person. Huh? Well, let me show you. Like one of the ones when he leaped into a woman the very first time. And they see him walking in shoes that obviously are very uncomfortable. He's in a dress, and they're cracking up. They love it because they're like, he's a woman. No, he's not a woman. He's a man in a woman's outfit. And then once you get past that, and you say, okay, now who's the protagonist? Well, of course, Sam is. Who's the antagonist? Or who's the bad guy in this episode? And next thing you know, you got the kids because they're already cracking up at the guy in the dress. Once you get them interested in it, you got them. Then you use it to help pull them in and say, okay, what's going on? Why did he do that? How is he going to help this character? Did he help the character? Yes, what did he do? So you're going through that whole plot line. What was the rising action? What was the climax? What was the falling action? What was the resolution? And we go through the whole thing and we talk about it. And then the very next time we have a short day or something again, hey, Miss Cogburn, can we watch another episode of Quantum Leap? Yeah, I guess so. Why? Did you like that one episode? Yeah. Okay. Let me make sure that I bring, that I have it here. But, we're going to have to go through the plot line again. Okay. And what's funny is back in, 2009, I was lucky enough that I was able to go to the Quantum Leap convention, the 20-year reunion, and I got to meet Scott. But before I got to meet him, they were doing one of the question and answer sections. And, everybody was clapping for all the famous actors were up on the stage. And one of them just happened to be Carolyn Seymour. She played Zoe in the show. And when we're writing, we think of her as, in Quantum Retribution, as Zoe Malvison. Anyway, she's up there, and along with a couple of others, and I can't remember all who were there, but I just felt honored to be there because here I am. I'm standing up ready to ask my question, and it wasn't even really a true question, really. It was just I wanted to thank you guys so much for all of your effort in the show because I do use it in school, and thank you so much for doing that. I had mentioned the school issue in a different panel, and as I was saying thank you, I was about to go sit down, and one of the actors pointed out, he said, hey, are you the one who uses Quantum Leap in your class? And I said, yes, sir. And next thing I know, he has me explain how I do it, and I did. And I said, I just use it to help with plot, and I just really thank you guys for everything, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have something to actually go back to that is really child-friendly and family-oriented that I could use. And, here we are supposed to be clapping for them. And Carolyn Seymour says to me, well, we should be thankful to you for teaching the children what they need to learn instead of clapping for us. And next thing I know, they're clapping for me. And I lost it.
Wow.
I absolutely lost it. And I cried. I went to go sit back down. And later on, I got a picture with Carolyn Seymour. And as I was talking to her beforehand, I told her, I said, you made me cry. And I'll never forget that. And she said, well, that's what I'm here for, aren't I? So
that's an amazing validation of all the work you do.
I just do it because I love it. I love the kids. You can't teach without loving the people that you're teaching, because if you don't care about the kids, how can you teach them anything? And so I guess that's why I liked it so much and continue to like it.
So we're both big Quantum Leap fans.
Yes, we are.
What are some of your favorite moments from Quantum Leap?
My absolute favorite is when Scott Bakula is sitting in a chair eating Jell-O and onions and saying that he's pregnant and cracking up over it. That episode, I don't know how many times I rewounded that episode and just watched that little bit over and over and over again. I'm sure I probably broke my VCR because that just one little bit tore me up. I could not take it. I laughed so hard because, of course, that's the episode where he's a pregnant teenager, and it's just hilarious. Look at me, I'm pregnant. And he starts cracking up. And Al's just completely, no, you're not pregnant. So, yeah, that's my favorite one.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today on the Quantum Leap podcast. And thank you so much for all the writing you do and the production work on the Quantum Retribution, for expanding the Quantum Leap universe for the fans. I know you love doing it, but it's just a great thing that we have that much more out there to read and enjoy our favorite characters.
Oh, well, thank you for listening and reading and, taking the time to come over and everything. I mean, I just have fun doing what I do, and if other people enjoy it, all the more better.
I'm going to go read Queen of the Night.
Well, there is something in there that is not true for certain, so just don't think everything in there is true.
All right.
So I'll put that out there. I don't know. That's kind of weird.